Step 34 applies to all charities and all accounts and is an important part of the accounts production process. Many accounts filed with the Charity Commission are defective. This is because there are so many disclosure requirements that are unusual and can sometimes apply even to very small charities who have unusual activities, that many people overlook these disclosure requirements and the accounts end up being defective. So the methodology we have approached the accounts production process on is to try and cover within the template as many possible disclosure requirements as we can. And we've then attempted to automate as many of these as possible from the input of data that is made to the accounts. But there is going to be a fairly large proportion of notes that still require manual input of information either on a text basis or a numerical basis. But the template itself then becomes a de facto checklist. There are 3 areas of notes in the accounts, one on the Notes tab, one on the Detail PL2 tab, and one on the Detail PL1 tab. The methodology for all of these is similar. You should ensure auto-hide is off before approaching this. This step can be modified at any stage in the accounts process and should be reviewed at finalisation. You can go to and fro from this step to the Notes section by clicking from here to the Notes index, for example. Read all those instructions in detail. Never delete rows or columns. This should all be handled by auto-hide. Any deletions may inadvertently delete hidden formula. If you go to the Notes page, you'll see that there are links to each individual note. The vast majority of these notes will not apply in every case, and you will have a much smaller number of notes in a real set of accounts. In the Accounting Policies section of these notes, the guidance will show you whether or not you can auto-hide that particular policy. In some cases, you must not auto-hide the policy. In some cases, you are able to auto-hide it, and you would use the Policies and Paragraphs command in VT. In all cases, you will be able to modify the text if it's appropriate to do so, and it will tell you to alter this text as appropriate. So you can alter any of the items in the accounting policies if you wish to do so. There is guidance there on how do you hide and unhide policies, guidance on the nature of the accounting policies, and so on. So the accounting policies are fairly simple to understand. We then go on to the notes. In the notes, some of the notes are mandatory and will not auto-hide. For example, this one will not auto-hide. In most cases where you have to enter data, it tells you how to do so. And it does this by indicating either with a blue box to the right of the note, as in this case, how you enter the data, or sometimes it will show it in the column headings as a blue box. In this particular case, it tells you to enter the data on the data sheet because this is automatically picked up from the information you entered previously in a previous step. In other notes, it will tell you that the current year total is automated, but the makeup of the totals and the prior year figures will require analysis. This is because when you entered information on the trial balance, you didn't have enough information to correctly analyse this over the various headings. So the information from the trial balance will be picked up and shown here in the still to be analysed boxes. In this case, there is nothing, but in some cases there would be. These boxes and these 2 boxes have got zeros in them. Total columns are automated, so you can ignore those, but these 2 columns and that column need manual entry. As you enter a figure into that box there, it will reduce the still to be analysed box. And once you've got your analysis correct, the still to be analysed box will be 0. And then your particular matrix for this particular disclosure will be correct. So in every case, read the instructions carefully as to what you do in a particular data entry area. Here, for example, it says these items are picked up from the TB and may need adjusting. And it tells you how to adjust them. The items in this section require manual input of text. Because of the way AutoHide works, there will be a flag telling you that it may be necessary to delete text in particular boxes in order to make everything AutoHide correctly. If this applies, manually insert numbers, but it tells you how to. You must, if numbers apply, if it applies, you must manually insert numbers. In the funds note, we have column headings rather than adjacent ones because there are so many combinations. Find the funds note. Here, in these columns, you can enter data. Some of the information may be automated on a best guess basis, but you may wish to manually override it. Make no entries in this column because that is automated, and you will disrupt the accounts if you enter data in there. Similarly, in this note, you can enter information to the blue columns, but not the yellow, and there is detailed guidance about how you enter the information into those boxes. As long as you follow the guidance, you will not go wrong. On the detailed P&L 1 note section, this is the activity analysis disclosure. Much of the information is automated, but some isn't. Most of the comparative information cannot be picked up from any information you've entered, so it has to be entered manually from last year's working paper file. It is entered in total. You see there it refers to a box marked X at the foot of this note. If you go to the foot of that note, there is X there, and there is a figure there that's picked up in total, which is the comparative figure for prior period funds. As you enter comparative data in these boxes that have got nil in them, this figure will reduce and eventually will come to nil. At that point, you've entered your comparative information correctly. Be careful when entering information into this detail P&L1 that you only enter it into boxes that have got 0 in them. If they have got formula in them, such as that, do not enter data into that box. You will also have some items where you've got information that's not correctly analysed, and you will have to manually insert information. There will be guidance there to do that. So, for example, you may have a message saying you have not fully analysed your non-charitable activities, and you will have to enter manually figures to complete the analysis. Similar approaches are used for detailed P&L2, but we'll return to that later. Once you've completed this step, which may involve quite a lot of work, you should then look at the data validation section and see that you have no errors. If there's any entry here that has a number by it, you have an error in that area, and you should go to the particular area of the accounts to correct that error. It may be an error of analysis, either of accounting information in the TB, or it may be error of analysis in the activity analysis, or an error of analysis in one of the prime documents, such as the cash flow account, or whatever. Once you're happy that you've got all these entries converted to nil because you've corrected the errors, you can then enter Y in there to indicate that you've completed the step, and that is the end of the step. This is not a step to be skimped. It is a major part of the accounts production process, and this is where much of the time in producing accounts will be spent.